Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown. And today is about a pair of Canadian serial killers, Paul Bernardo, Karla Homolka, but it's mostly about Karla Homolka. And why did she participate in these serial homicides? Because it's very unusual to have a woman doing this kind of thing, helping out her man the way she did. And people are wondering, and it's been a big, huge argument. It was an argument at their trial. It was an argument. It's still an argument on the internet. Was she a victim or a victimizer, or was she both? Did she suffer from battered wife syndrome? Was it Stockholm syndrome? Or is she just a straight up psychopath? And this is an argument that's been going on and on because while Paul Bernardo unquestionably was a psychopath, and he got his life in prison, so there's no problem with him. People don't even really care about him anymore. But she got 12 years, and she is now living a normal life with her husband, or maybe separated. I'm not sure about that. I'll talk about that in a minute. And her 3 children, and under a new name, which now everybody knows. But 12 years, and she's out and about and considered have paid her dues. So really, really, really bizarre case of a woman involved in serial homicides. So I'm going to not address all the issues about how the crimes went down and all the issues about the trial and all the issues about all of that, because I'm going to give you the links to go someplace else. And they're going to be below. And I recommend that you go to them. If you don't know anything about this case, I'm going to give you the Wikipedia version. So if you want to just research this case to death because you've never heard about it, stop the video, go below, and come back. Okay, let me say hello to everybody who is in the chat room right now. My goodness, it's busy. These guys are so creepy that brings everybody in. Lisa S is here, Carrie is here, Benny is here, Ms. Leah is here, Molly's here, Heidi's here, Annika's here, going back up, Carolina is here, Lisa N is here. Did I say Carrie already? I think I did. Florence is here. And Joe is here. Martin is here. I believe Annie Haley is here. I know there's some people who wanted to be here, but they had a life, so they couldn't be here live. And let me just point out before I start, because it is important, very important to the channel, believe you me. Please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you a bit. It really does support the channel. Subscribe, like the video, share in your true crime community, and hit the bell for notifications. You can also buy a book. That just helps. And you can hit the little $sign, and that's a one-time donation to help the channel. But if you want to be more involved, $5 a month, there's 8 live shows you can participate in. And that's what the people here are part of. They're part of the Patreon community. And it's a wonderful community of people who really are truly interested in criminal profiling and crime scene analysis. And they want to be here to discuss these things. And they're super. And you can be super too. Join. Okay, that's that. Now, let's get to these creatures. I don't have a better word for them. Creatures. All right. So now let me tell you before I go further. I do want to. The links are going to be below, but I want to show you what I accessed before I did the show. I accessed. Let's see. What did I do? I read two books. Well, first I saw 2 shows. This is the one show, Ken and Barbie Killers, the Lost Murder Tapes. It's well done. It's kind of very, very quote balanced, shall I say, in the sense that they're saying this could have this happened and then this happened. They don't overdo one side or the other about who you think is the worst of the worst. And then there's this Fifth Estate, which I was recommended to watch. Who recommended me to watch that? It was wasn't it Carrie? Was it Carrie? Carrie, did you recommend me to watch this? I know Lila also had a good one. Fifth Estate is fantastic. Very anti Karla Homolka, however. So if you think they really take one side on it, but the reporter in this is fabulous. I mean, I often mock the media for it's whatever they're doing, but she was actually an extraordinarily good journalist, and really brought out a lot of stuff. You can see this on YouTube, so it's free. This one I saw on Discovery Channel, I believe. I happen to have the ability to see it on there, so I saw that. And then I read 2 books. Where are my 2 books? Okay, what? Well, hold on a second. We're having the disappearing stuff again. No, don't doing that to me. The disappearing stuff. Oh, maybe it disappeared because I put it in a different place and then I didn't remember putting it there. Yeah. All right, there it is. Okay. See, I put it behind me and not over on my extra pictures. All right. Invisible Darkness is considered the very good, basic, solid book. And I think this is very good. I find the end is kind of interesting. The guy kind of believes that Karla was the one who killed them, not Paul. And so that's an interesting, I'm going to talk about, did she or didn't she kill them? And he brings that up. This one is called Lethal Marriage. It's really cheap. I think it's $4.99 on Kindle. Every bit of the videotapes that were made of the victims being raped and tortured is in this book. It's not pleasant to read. So one of you just asked me, how was my weekend? It sucked. I read this book and it's extremely unpleasant, extremely unpleasant. And because of how unpleasant it was, and, you know, I'm a profiler, so believe me, I've seen this. I've seen so much. I've read so much that, you know, I'm able to handle things pretty well. Also, in case people are asking me to do the show, the Luca Magnotta case up in Canada, I watched the video, and very few people have seen that video. It's probably on the dark web. Yeah, like live leak or something. I watched that video. Not very pleasant. And I can tell you from people in law enforcement who are close to me, they're having to watch videos, which you have to do if you're in law enforcement. And let's say you're in sex crimes or you're in child abuse crimes, and sometimes it's sex crimes against children. You have to watch videos of children being abused in the worst ways possible. And let me tell you, that horribly, horribly affects the detectives watching it. It's nasty. It's just awful. So, sorry, choking on something. And as awful as that is, because they have to live with that in their heads the rest of their lives. And I've seen some of the stuff, so I live with it in my head for the rest of my life. However, the videos of the victims in these crimes were shown to the jury. And as I always say, the jury is just 12 people taken off a bus stop. And they don't have the expertise to, in my opinion, to analyze things to the level to they need to analyze it as far as figuring out what the evidence means and what the experts are saying. But also, they're normal human beings. And it is, I think, an incredible abuse of the criminal justice system, incredible cruelty to make regular people watch what I read in this book. I didn't see the videos in this book, but I've seen videos like it. I know what they watched. I can't believe they had to watch this. And some of them said they had to go to psychiatrists after that. They've never recovered from it. It's cruel and unusual punishment to totally innocent people trying to do their civilian duty by being on a civilian jury. Again, I'm against civilian juries. Have professional juries. Let persons like me who've seen things before deal with this. Don't foist that on other people. And one of the shows, I think it was, which one was it? It was, I believe it was, hold on, let me find which one it was. It was it was this one. And this is why I do like the show. The Ken and Barbie Killers, the Lost Murder Tapes. There's a woman on there who was a mother of small children. She was a juror, and she was very excited in the beginning. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get to do something nobody ever gets to do. She was really excited until the tape showed up. It's absolute cruelty. It's sadistic. You know, we have a crime of massive sadism, and yet you're sadistically torturing the jury at the same time. It's just awful. And it also turned out they had an argument over whether the public should see this. No. So I think they were allowed to hear it but not see it. Still no. It's none of their damn business. And then eventually, after everything was over, the families got they actually burned the tapes, which is good. But so it's not available to be seen anyplace. Thank God, because it would be all over the internet, and it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. So that is what I spent my weekend doing. So boy, was that fun. But it was important for me to do because I need to understand what happened in order to be able to analyze all of this. So, oh, that's interesting. Ms. Leah says, in grad school, we had to listen to a 911 call of a rape, and it really upset me as an understatement. I cry, Christine. Christina's here too. Yeah, I mean, having worked in hospitals for years too, I've seen people die in hospitals. I've seen people being given horrible news in hospitals and break down, and those things just resonate with me. I mean, they're still like inside me. It's seeing it and hearing it is nothing like anything you can understand unless you've been there. And I just don't understand why a jury should be put through that. I think it's sick. I mean, I just think it's sick. The whole crime was sick. So why would you put a jury through this? It's wrong. Put a professional juror, somebody like me. I signed up for the program. You know what I mean? I know what I'm getting into. It's my work. I do this all the time, and I know how to balance things out. And if I have to suffer for my work, so I do. But an innocent person who just wants to do their duty as a citizen, that's just sick. I'm sorry. That's my soapbox. I'm starting out on a soapbox before I start the show. Okay, let's get to, in case you have no clue, and you should go check everything out before you watch the show. But if you have no clue what I'm even talking about Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka. Okay, let me give you the rundowns on that so you can sort of basically understand who these characters are. All right, so Paul Bernardo, that's this dude here, who, by the way, he really relished the fact that he understood that he's a good-looking dude and a kind of baby-faced, innocent, attractive guy. Nobody suspected him. Nobody thought he was dangerous because of his looks. He wasn't like, so he was right about that. Absolutely was so true, because he used I think he's good looking, used his good looks and his face is soft, and he has an innocent demeanor, and he knew that crap. Way back in high school, he knew how to use it. So, character. All right, so Paul Kenneth Bernardo was born in 1964. He was known as the Scarborough rapist and the schoolgirl killer. Oh, let me just show you where all this takes place in case you have no idea, because some people live in other countries and we don't think they know what we're talking about, but they don't, because they don't live near us. So anyway, here we go. This is like 101. Okay, so here we are, USA and Canada, and you see that little part where it says Ottawa. Okay, that direction. All right, so here we are. This is sort of this is supposed to be the jurisdiction, and then we get down to Toronto, and in this area, and then we have Scarborough. Scarborough is like a suburb of Toronto, so that's sort of where things originally happened. That's as much as I'm going to do on that. It's in Canada, guys, near Toronto. All right. So he was called the Scarborough rapist because he raped a whole lot of people, a whole lot of women in Scarborough, and also the schoolgirl killer because eventually 3 girls died, and they were all of schoolgirl age. Okay, died. Yeah, well, they were killed, they were murdered, but okay. He is a Canadian serial killer and serial rapist. This is true. Started out as a serial rapist, became a serial killer. And by the way, that's not unusual. So anytime you have a serial killer, you look backwards in time to see if there's serial rapes. Anytime serial rapes, you should look forward in time to see if there's serial homicides. And serial rapists become serial killers for 2 reasons. One is that one of those women they raped had the audacity to go to the police and say what he looked like. And he's like, I'm not going to let that happen again. She ratted me out. So he kills all his future victims because it's a smart thing to do, And there are other ones who, once they commit rapes, also enjoy the actual homicide part of it. They're getting into more power, more control, more thrills, and they'll go that way. Okay, so he is known for initially committing a series of rapes in Scarborough, Canada, Scarborough, Ontario, a suburb of Toronto, between 1987 and 1990, before subsequently committing 3 murders with his then wife, the charming Karla Homolka. And among these victims was her younger sister, Tammy. And if you haven't ever experienced this case, this is what is so bizarre about the case and the most telling part of the case. Tammy, one of the victims was Tammy, her younger sister, who was only 15 at the time. After his capture and conviction, Bernardo was sentenced to life imprisonment and was later declared a dangerous offender, thus making it unlikely he will ever be released from prison. I have never understood the concept of releasing anybody from prison who is a serial killer. That includes her. Okay, so anyway, now I want to point out there's a book called Lethal Marriage, which I pointed out in, that I'd read, which has all the videotape crap in it. In his book Lethal Marriage, Nick Prawn, they think prawn actually means porn, but like you flip the letters around. Okay. I don't know who this dude is, but it's it's a pretty good book. Nick Prawn describes young Bernardo. He was always happy, a young boy who smiled a lot. He was so cute with his dimpled good looks and sweet smile, and that many of the mothers just wanted to pinch him on the cheek whenever they saw him. He was the perfect child they all wanted, polite, well-mannered, doing well in school. Yes, and he had a Boy Scout uniform too. All right, beneath the charming facade, however, he developed a dark sexual fantasies and enjoyed humiliating women in public and beating women he dated. Now, this is very important. He beat women he dated. He did sadistic acts with women he dated. So this dude did not start this with Carla. He started it with other women. All right. So at any rate, and he became very successful. I think he became an accountant. He really wanted to be rich. So, because rich people attract and they keep police away, And I'm trying to figure out how to introduce this as to what he was into. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to say right now, if you comment below on this, I'm going to wipe out your comment. Okay, and if you insist on it, I'll wipe you out. We're talking about BDSM. All right. BDSM is bondage, discipline, sadism, masochism. It's an erotic practice that some people enjoy. So what happens is, and there's an entire community, the BDSM community, which is like, oh, this is all very cool. It's our way of sexually expressing ourselves. We have safe words so nobody gets hurt. We love it, and it's cool. Okay, I'm just going to say this right here. I don't think it's cool. I think it's sick. I'm going to say it. I think it's perversion. I think that anybody who wants to humiliate and dominate another human being and cause them pain is a sick SOB. And I think anybody who's participating in this on the masochistic end has other issues. And we're going to talk about that with Karla Homolka. She had issues because if you're willing to participate in a situation, and usually now it's not always male, female. It's not always male is the domination and the woman is the masochist. It's not always sadist, masochist, male, female. Sometimes it's male, male. Sometimes it's female, female. And on way lesser occasions, it's male, female, male. I'm not going to go into the whole description of everything, and the methodologies are just. There are many methodologies. Let's put it that way, from restraints to pain, causing pain, all kinds of humiliation of all sorts. I'm not going to get into this because this is how you get demonetized, and I probably am. So please do subscribe to my channel, like and subscribe, join Patreon. Okay, so. Now, the important point about this is when two people get into a relationship, which is a BDSM relationship, some sort of that sadism and masochism. What does that mean? And why is that this guy, he's the sadist. She theoretically is a masochist. And this, of course, this very bizarre already unfortunate sexual component of their relationship, then extended to other human beings who were not, shall we say, consensual. She's consensual. The other women were not consensual. Her sister wasn't consensual, nor were the two women who got murdered, all the women he raped. So, but he is a sadist. He's a psychopath and a sadist. He loved the power and control. And to understand how this plays out in the long run is really important. And I don't think a lot of people are willing to discuss the different implications of this or the aspects of it. I'm going to do so, but I'm going to try to do so in a way that is at least palatable. And I don't mean palatable for what is being done, but palatable for the community here to actually listen to anything, because I want you to understand the psychology behind it. And I'm going to say this up front because it's always important. I'm not a psychologist, nor am I a psychiatrist, nor am I a specialist in sex paraphilias. No, I am a criminal profile, and it's my opinion. And I've been around a lot of stuff. So if you value my opinion, this is what you're going to get. If you're saying you're not the proper expert, I don't believe you. I don't want to listen to anything you say. Okay. But I find a lot of psychiatrists, psychologists, and these supposedly sex experts pull the wool over our eyes. I do believe this because they try to downplay everything as if everything is acceptable in the human experience. I don't believe this is true. I believe there are things that are damaging to the humans. Our pornography has become very much sadistic over the years. The soft porn has become hard porn. Hard porn is available on Pornhub and other places. Anybody can access it at a young age. There's a lot more sadism coming into the sexual experiences of young people, and it's like, hey, you should do this because it's not lovemaking, it's not romantic, it's not sensual, it's power and control in a vicious way, where one person gets to be the dominant person, the other person has to be the submissive, and then the simple version of that is to say master and slave. So master and slave. Why would anybody want to be a slave to a master? Why would they want to give themselves over to a person to humiliate them, to cause pain to them, to make them do things that are disgusting and repugnant, just to make the master feel good? You know, if this were a racial thing, nobody would be okay with it. But apparently most of the time it is a male-female thing, although sometimes, again, male-male and other things. We accept this as, oh, it's okay if everybody's okay with it. No, it's sick. It's sick. And I'm going to sit there and I'm going to say it's sick. Run away if you want to. It's sick. So anyway, we got Mr. Sadist. But this gets really complicated as far as Karla Homolka goes. So did she met this guy. Let me tell you about Karla and how she met him. Okay, let me go back to Wikipedia, tell you a wee bit about Karla. All right, so Karla, one of the things that's interesting about Karla is they leave a lot about her childhood behavior and her teenage behavior out. She's not as nice as they make her out to be in a lot of places. She's kind of sadistic herself, and this is going to be important. All right, Karla Homolka was born in 1970. She is a Canadian serial killer. I guess I call her that. Who acted as an accomplice to her husband, Paul Bernardo, in the rape and murder of at least 3 minors in Ontario between 1990 and 1992. Homolka attracted worldwide media attention when she was convicted of manslaughter, and made to serve only 12 years for the murders of 2 teenage girls. And if you're not from Canada, you may not know about the deal with the devil, but the prosecution made a deal with Karla to basically rat out her husband because they wanted him to be put away more than they wanted her to be put away. And either they believed her story of being a victim, or they were willing to accept her story as being a victim so that they could get murder 1 on Paul Bernardo and have him out life sentence. Now, I don't know. I'm not familiar totally with the whole way things work in Canada, but the dude was a Scarborough rapist, and they had DNA that linked him to the crime. He raped a whole bunch of women. I don't know why that's not a life sentence anyway. So I don't get the whole legal system stuff. Anyway, she stated to investigators that she was an unwilling accomplice in Bernardo's murders as a result of domestic violence. This is the battered wife thing going on here. Resulting in a deal made with prosecutors for a reduced prison sentence in exchange for a guilty plea to the charge of manslaughter. Homolka scored 5 out of 40 on the psychopathic checklist, in contrast to Bernardo's 35 out of 40. I'm also going to put a link to Dr. Grande's thing on this, because I'm going to read you what he said, because he had said there's 2 basic theories on that, and he did point out that she scored really low on the psychopathy thing. He scored really high, and then he gave us 2 theories about what kind of person she was. I'm going to read those, and then I'm going to discuss those. So anyway, however, okay, let me just go back here. This is such a complicated thing and so much information. I'm trying to figure out how to tell you this without overwhelming you. All right. So what happened was, let me just go back in time a wee bit, just so I can sort of make this more understandable. So anyway, these characters, they got together. Okay, let me show you their teenage pictures. They were actually, here she is, and where is she? She's sweet. She loved animals for some reason, although she worked for a vet, and she supposedly loved animals, and she ended up getting a dog with Paul, and that's not it. That's when she was a teenager, and she really cared about the dog way more than she cared about any of the women that died. She's like, well, what's going to happen with my dog? So she liked dogs, but apparently there was some story about where she was with her best friend, and she had like I don't know, it was a hamster or something, and she decided she'd like tie up a handkerchief around the hamster, make it into a parachute, and then she chucked the hamster out a window, thinking it would float down to the ground, and then it whacked into the ground, and 2 weeks later the hamster died. So you got to wonder about this girl, you know what I mean? Anyway, she was supposed to be this happy, sweet girl. And by the way, apparently even back in high school, she was saying stuff like, I want to make dots on people and then connect them and then, like scrape them and then pour like vinegar on them. The girl was obsessed with death and pain in high school. And that's important, because a lot of times she's made out to be like she was this happy, perfect person. And then she met Paul and everything went to hell. She was very fascinated with death and pain early on. So don't let her fool you. Okay, and here's Paul. Oh, and he was like Mr. the guy you want to date your daughter, until you find out you don't. Anyway, so he's like, he's a good looking dude. Okay, now she's not looking so nice, but hey, that's later. All right, and here they are, happy couple, and lo and behold, see, now they get married. Oh my God, they're so happy. They have the most romantic ever, the biggest wedding ever. But that's right after her sister, she killed off her sister, and it's like right after she killed off her sister. And so there's a lot of psychopathy there, which I'm going to talk about. And there they are. Oh, he's so excited. He's kissing his wife. Okay. So they got married, essentially. And they got their own home. And so now, supposedly, oh my goodness. All right, we're going to have to back up here. So let me go back to the BDSM thing, because I want you to understand there's 2 types of women who get involved with sadistic people. 2 types. One is pointed out to us in 50 Shades of Grey, something, a book I absolutely hate with absolute, I hate it with every part of my body. All right. So I'm going to read you it later on, because this is really important to why she turned her husband in. But I'm going to read you first one version of the kind of women that hook up with sadists. All right. Let me find it. All right. One of the reasons I hated the book was because people thought it was so romantic. Ugh. All right. What makes 50 Shades of Grey, I'm reading from a blog I wrote years ago. What makes 50 Shades of Grey so much more dangerous than other books of there's other books about sadism and masochism, like Story of O and Marquis de Sade, but it's so grim in those books. You don't kind of like, oh, I kind of want to do that myself, and I want to hook up with this dude. No, but 50 Shades of Grey made Christian seem like somebody actually was sexy. Okay. So that's why it's a more dangerous book. It's a romantic story and has a happy ending, which is ridiculous, and why she eventually realized there was going to be no happy ending. Let's see. Okay. So women get giddy over 50 Shades of Grey. I fear that none of them ever had decent lovemaking in their lives, so they find these awful sex scenes exciting. I fear they crave romance and validation of themselves that would sell they would sell their soul to the devil to get it. All right. This is one possibility. This is where the Stockholm Syndrome issue comes in. There are those who believe that Karla was an innocent character, and she met this super handsome guy, and he offered her the world, romance, money. And of course, Christian, if you go back to 50 Shades of Grey, he wasn't the local metro driver. He was a wealthy man with an airplane, and he had super amount of money. Because I always wonder, would you be willing to sign that contract of being tortured by the trash collector down the street, by the guy who stocks shelves at the local grocery store? Or is it only because this guy is rich as crap and you think you're going to get this life, this fantastic life I've always dreamed of? And of course, the protagonist in 50 Shades of Grey, she wasn't very interesting. She was actually a dull, not so brilliant, not so beautiful girl. And this girl suddenly gets the attention of this incredibly handsome rich man, and she's like, oh, I'll sell my soul to this devil because, oh my God, I'm going to get everything I always wanted for a little bit of pain. But I'm going to sign a contract and put some lines through things, and he's going to respect that. I'll get to that later. So, was she Stockholm Syndrome? In other words, did she meet, Paul, and was swept away to the point where she was totally under his control? She never ever in her life had any like sadomasochistic type things going on in her head. She just wanted romance. Did she just not, and it was just awesome with him. And so she just couldn't help but fall madly in love. And she did write these incredibly romantic, incredibly romantic. She wrote notes all the time and left him with him. Oh, hi, Easter. Oh, what Easter? Something. Okay. And she wrote these totally romantic things, often talking about his body parts, but really romantic things, leaving him on his pillow. You're my king. You're my this. You're my this. Okay. Well, maybe. Okay. All right. But he liked that because that showed him that she was his lady or his slave, whatever his version was. So anyway, was she totally just a sweet, completely naive girl? Got swept away. And then once she got swept away, he started the abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, the control over her, and then the sexual abuse. And then she just went along with it because, like in 50 Shades of Grey, she thought she could change him. She thought he would be different. She thought he did love her anyway, and she could, whatever. Is it a Stockholm Syndrome from a naive girl who then got drawn into crimes that she didn't want to commit, but she just went along with the program because he controlled her so much by that time? And okay. All right. Let's talk about Karla. All right. This is a concept that was put out, especially by the Crown. They wanted to use her as a witness, and they didn't want to make her to be an equal accomplice with Paul. So they were trying to take him down, so they needed her. So they bought into a lot of stuff about her, and she was able to say, you know what, I didn't want to do these things. And so they kind of like, I don't know if they just turned, just didn't, just like, Okay, we know that woman's a psycho, but we're not going to go there. We're just going to let her tell her story, and we're going to use it in court. Now, you wonder why, because now Paul, in case you don't know this case, Paul, man, that dude, he liked to film everything. He made his own porn films. He made his porn films on every occasion that he assaulted somebody. He made films of just him and Carla, which were actually kind of useful to the, and trying to make Carla look okay, or let me think how this would work. He filmed them like, doing happy things, and she's like, hey, and he's like, hey, and they look like they're in love. So, maybe keeping her looking like she's innocent. It's hard to explain. Anyway, he videotaped like every one of his crimes. But now this gets a little complicated. Remember that I said he was a Scarborough. Oh, let me go down this way. He's a Scarborough rapist. Let me go back to Paul. So what happened was, without her knowledge, before she was even really involved in his life, he committed multiple sexual assaults, escalating in viciousness in and around Scarborough. He attacked most of his victims after stalking them as they got off of buses late in the evening. So he raped a lot. Let me count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, like 20 rapes. He raped a lot. Okay, so what happened was, they didn't know who this dude was, because basically it came from behind, so they never saw his face, except for one woman finally did. So she gave a pretty good description. That was not bad. They exaggerate that. Oh my God, it looked just like him. No, it didn't. It looked like a lot of guys that could have looked like him. But he was interviewed, because some people said, that guy's kind of creepy. He got interviewed, and he willingly went with the police. He gave an interview. He gave his blood. He gave, said, sure, check out the DNA. Now, I don't know if he was just stupid, or he just thought at the time that DNA wasn't, it wasn't checked very well. Well, it did take them 2 freaking years to actually do, because it was brand new back in 1990. So it was like they had one guy doing the testing, and they had all these suspects, and so they slowly, bringing down how many suspects there were. Unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. So he wasn't determined to be the Scarborough guy, rapist, until after he had married Carla, and after he had helped her kill 3 people, or she helped him kill 3 people. They killed 3 people together. Finally, it came in that he was, his DNA match, and they brought the guy in. But it took 2 years because of the very slow DNA stuff. Meanwhile, they were looking for who was the guy that killed these 2 girls. Now, let me talk about the 2 girls. So he marries her. All right, I'm going to get to what happened to her sister in a bit, because I really want to put the sister under how you want to analyze her as a psychology. It's very important as to, what her psychology was. But after they got married, there were these 2 girls that, maybe I should go back to Tammy. All right. It's such a complicated case. I'm trying to figure out how to present it to you. Okay, so anyway, they're not married yet. They're dating. And this is really actually very important. They're dating, and they're over at Tammy, at Carla's house with her parents. They're having a Christmas Eve kind of thing. They're drinking. The parents let her little sister, Tammy, who's 15, have a drink. They go down out of the parents' sight into I think a basement room or whatever, family room. And Tammy dies. Now, why do you want to ask, why did Tammy die? All right. And this is a huge clue to this woman. All right. Now, she says this. He wanted to have sex with Tammy. All right. You're dating. You're dating. And this guy wants to have sex with your 15-year-old sister. No. You're not even married. You're not living in the same household. He doesn't have that much control over you. So is she suffering from this? I love him so much, I want to make him happy. That's what her claim is. So she's going by I'm so naive. I'm just in love with him, and I'm going to, he's Christian, The book wasn't out then, but he's Christian. He's told me what he wants, and I want to please him. So I'm going to do these things for him. All right. So she says he wanted to have sex with Tammy. So because he wanted to have sex with her sister, because apparently he'd been like ogling her, and she was a little annoyed because it's like, why do you keep looking at my sister? But instead of punishing him, she decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and she claims she's going to get this over with. She's going to let her boyfriend have sex with her sister just one time. And then once he's had sex with her, then, then they can move on. Okay. So she gets some drugs, and she puts it in the drink of her sister. So it makes her sleepy, but that's not enough for the actual rape, because, she's only going to be sleepy, not out of it. So she actually gets a thing called halothane. She works for a veterinarian, so she understands that halothane is used with animals. And if you put that over, you put that over somebody's face and they knock out, right? So she put it on a cloth and held it near her face, which is actually a big fat lie. And in court, she said, like this, far away. No, her sister had a burn mark on her whole cheek, and I won't show that photo. A huge burn mark, and clearly it was like this. All right. And why did she need her sister to be so knocked out? Oh, because Paul raped her. He had vaginal intercourse with her and anal intercourse with her, because you see, one just wasn't enough. All right. And then she threw up and stopped breathing. So this is her virgin sister. She wanted to present a virgin for her husband. For her boyfriend. It wasn't even her husband. She was in her parents' home. She committed a crime under her parents' roof. So it wasn't like she couldn't run upstairs and say to her parents, "Get my boyfriend out of here. The guy's a lunatic. He wants to rape my little sister. Get him the heck out of here." She was in a safe location. It wasn't like she was in some separate place. She was in a safe location. Yet she offered her own sister to him for rape and of a virgin, and on top of that, anal intercourse, and on top of that, which is really concerning, she also performed sex on her sister. So now we have something a little bit more than I'm in love with the guy and I just want to help him out here. So I wanted to explain to you the other side of the dominant and servant relationship, of the master and slave relationship, of what is supposed to be sadism and masochism. I'm going to present the opposite side. And this is rarely presented. I believe that there's two versions. One is you're just a stupid crap, and I want to have a boyfriend so badly, I'll just do whatever he says. But this is going way past that. So here's the flip side of that. I believe that for some people, sadism and masochism are two sides of the same coin. That the person committing the sadism is getting his thrills out of power and control. But the person who is participating in the masochism is also getting a thrill out of power and control. In other words, he did do really, really sadistic things to her. He did. She groveled for him. She said all the words he wanted her to say. She was willing to be humiliated. She put up with sexual acts that probably weren't comfortable for her. She did it because it made him happy. Now, so your naive girl may do that to make him happy, but there's another kind, and that is, I'm getting my own power and control thrill out of being able to provide this for you, and therefore, when I see I'm able to do this, it gives me a sick kick too. So, now, this was actually brought up by Dr. Grande, and I want to bring this up now. All right, so Dr. Grande said, and I was very excited about this, by the way, because sometimes I like Dr. Grande's stuff, sometimes I disagree with him. But what he says about her is there's two choices with her psychology. One is that she was an active participant, and the other one is that she was a victim. Okay? And that he abused her enough that she became a victim, as well as the victims that, the ones that were killed. She also was a victim. He says this. All right. And this is the explanation. One of the theories here, this is his first theory, Dr. Grande, is that Karla was extremely submissive to start with, and he was extremely sadistic. So actually in her regular life, she wasn't submissive at all. She was submissive to him. So you have to understand the difference between the two, because her submission to him was not normal in her regular life. Her submission to him was a power and control effort on her own part, because if she could do what he wanted, she controlled him. All right. He said both of them had extreme positions and they were attracted to each other for those extreme positions. Yeah, that is true, I believe. When Paul started involving himself in crime, she was excited. Yes, she was. Why? Because she was part of it, because she also was quite sadistic in her own right, that she got a thrill out of the power and control that he exhibited over the victims and that she exhibited over the victims and that they together exhibited over the victims. The degree of masochism and sadism will rise to a criminal level. Yes, it did. Not just in their personal lives, but now onto somebody else. The theory sidesteps the problem of Karla's low level of psychopathy score. I'm going to say the low level came from idiots who couldn't do a proper testing on her. And it says here, because she simply had manipulated the authorities, as one would do if they were a psychopath. In other words, she was a good psychopath, so she manipulated him into thinking she wasn't a psychopath. Good job. If this is the case, would Karla's culpability be the same as Paul's? Well, if sadism isn't a mitigating factor for Paul, in other words, you can't just say, oh, because he was a sadist, he couldn't help himself. Then if she's going to play a masochist part, she couldn't help herself either, right? But if both of them, you can't take away one, you can't take away the other. So both of them willingly participated in these crimes. They both committed crimes that were facilitated, but not determined by their personality traits. So they both knew what they were doing. They both liked what they were doing. They're both thrilled by what they were doing. So they were both equal. I was like, oh my gosh, Dr. Grande, you finally got it. So she's not the naive little girl who just did everything because she wanted him to love her. She is actually, in her own little dimensioned mind, quite sadistic herself. She liked watching the sadism on other people. She liked performing on other people. She had no problem with this. And when she was performing masochistic acts with her husband, it was because she enjoyed seeing him perform sadistic acts. So it's like a weird thing. You're living vicariously through the sadistic person, but you're kind of like sadism yourself. That's why you do it. It's a big different thing than I'm just going to suffer because I love him. She wasn't suffering because she loved him. She was doing certain things that probably were a little tough for her because she enjoyed the whole sadistic thing. And when they brought in other people to the relationship, she was into that. And when he wanted to have sex with her sister, she was willing to actually allow her sister to be raped and sexually assaulted. And she sexually assaulted her own sister. You're going to tell me that was because she just wanted him to love her? No, that's because she enjoyed the whole process. She didn't think her sister was going to die. She thought when she put that thing over her face, her sister was going to live but not remember anything. And then her sister accidentally died. So that was a manslaughter thing. But she was the one that put that over her sister's face. So she's more responsible for her sister's death than that guy. So let's not walk away from that. So anyway, I think that she was an equal participant. Now, Dr. Grande goes on. Oh my God, what happened here? No. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry. I thought I wiped. Maybe I did wipe this out. Okay, no, I didn't. Okay. He has a second theory. He says the second theory is she's a victim. Doesn't alleviate her culpability completely, although it's a mitigating factor. So he's saying that because he supposedly abused her and controlled her, that's a mitigating factor, that she wasn't as responsible for the murders as him. It would justify a 12-year sentence rather than life in prison. This theory fits a lot of the evidence. It fits with PTSD. It fits with low psychopathy, low masochism. It fits in with her anxiety and depression, which is all from her mouth. So who knows that she had any anxiety or depression. It fits with Paul's insatiable desire to dominate and his criminal behavior that was separate from Karla. In other words, he raped people before he met Karla. So he was already on that program. She just ended up joining him. Does she escape culpability? No. She's obligated to report to the police. She had opportunities to report what was happening to the police to stop girls from getting killed. And I'm going to get into this in a minute. People understand she might put up with the abuse of her. In other words, if you're suffering from Stockholm syndrome, you might allow him to abuse you, but to allow him to abuse other people and for you to go along with it, participate in it, and not stop it is a different matter than Stockholm syndrome. She not only allowed herself to be a victim, but others to be a victim, and she actively participated in the crimes. This is heinous and criminal. Neither theory relieves her of responsibility, but the second theory mitigates her level of involvement to some extent. And this is the one I think is correct. Okay, Dr. Grande, I disagree entirely. I do not believe she was a victim. I do not believe anything mitigates anything she did. I believe she's the first one that you explained so well. I was all excited. I'm like, yay, Dr. Grande, we're going to be on the same page. And then you said, no, I'm with not the former, but the latter theory. I'm like, crap. Anyway, he said, I don't see a lot of evidence that Karla was criminally submissive to the level that Paul was criminally dominant. So in other words, he was stronger than she was. He didn't offer up his own sister. She offered up her own sister. This is a sister she'd grown up with. This is a sister that her parents loved. This is a sister who was innocent. She offered her own sister to her boyfriend. Who is pushing that envelope? Still, she missed opportunities to save lives. Yes, she did. Paul was away. Okay, I'm going to get into the two girls that were kidnapped and why this gets even weird. And she didn't have much empathy for the victims, right? And so she didn't help them and allowed them to be killed. That's what he thinks. She allowed them to be killed. And so he thinks maybe the Crown was right because they needed her testimony, but maybe it should have been 25 years and not 12. Okay. All right. Now, I want to go to the two girls that were killed after Tammy. All right. Let me go here a second. Okay. Where are the two girls? Okay. Hold on. Over here. All right. All right. So I say it's very complicated in many ways, and I don't know if I'm making it easier for you, but I'm trying to tell you the psychological things. All right. We have the two girls. All right. Tammy. Now, mind you, Tammy, her sister, she offered up her sister to her boyfriend, and then they killed her. It was ruled an accident because for some reason they had idiots examining the case and a terrible forensic pathologist. They ruled it an accident. So that was what happened. Now, I want to point out something that was said right after this. All right. Hold on a second. This is one of the keys to her incredible psychopathy. All right. After Tammy was died, and they were going to get married like right away after Tammy died. Now, you would think, your parents are in mourning. Your parents are just completely devastated over the loss of Tammy. But, that's not really important, What's more important is your wedding because, you're going to have this incredibly Princess Diana Charles wedding and you want to have fun. How dare your parents be like mourning over your dead sister? So anyway, don't take my word for it. This is actually what she wrote. Wait till you hear this. A second letter she had written. This is a letter that Karla had written. Let me go back to just before I get to these girls. Let me go back to just so you can see Karla. All right. Karla wrote this letter just before marriage. In it, she talked about wanting a dog, which she eventually got, her new house, the color of her carpets, and about how there are too many immigrants in Toronto, her upcoming wedding, and what gifts she wanted. Because, your sister's dead, but you still want gifts, right? And she had some advice to her friend. She said, the world will screw you in every way it can, Deb. No, I think you screwed your sister over. But, apparently she's now blaming the world. So take as much as you can while you can. Okay, she's greedy. She's a greedy little piece of work. She is. All right, now she says this. Then she starts talking about her parents. My wedding parents are great, except for my parents being such assholes. Your sister's dead. I guess she says, well, it's the same thing as losing your cat. You know what I mean? Get over it. They pulled out half of the money from the wedding saying they couldn't afford it. Bullshit. Now Paul and I have to pay for $7,000 or $8,000 of the wedding. We've been compromising like crazy. A cash bar, no flowers on the table. Finally, Paul and I said, fuck it. We're going to do everything we planned. Real flowers, no paying for the bar, cocktails, everything. Because, hey, my sister's not around to enjoy the rest of her life, but I am. All right. Fucking parents. They're being so stupid. Only thinking of themselves. Okay. Psychopathy. Psychopathy. I don't know how she only scored 4. I don't know who gave that test. That's psychopathy. Like a slam in the face. I don't know. They're only thinking of themselves. Their daughter is dead. And you think that they're wrong for thinking about their dead daughter, but you're not. You're right for thinking about your wedding. Oh my God. My father doesn't even want us to have a wedding. He thinks we should just go to the hall. Screw it. He wants to sit at home and be miserable. Well, because his daughter's dead. You killed her, for God's sakes. Apparently, she's got no empathy. How did that get missing off the psychopathy test? Don't know. All right. He hasn't worked except for one day since Tammy died. How dare he? He's wallowing in his own misery and fucking me. It sounds awful on paper. No, it sounds awful in general, Carla. I know you really see what I'm saying. Tammy always said she wanted a Porsche on her 16th birthday. Now my dad keeps saying, I should have bought it. Bull. If he really felt like that, he'd be paying for my wedding. Because I could die tomorrow or next year. He's such a liar. It's hard to come up with words for this, except for psychopathy, and psychopathy. All right. And for the real reason we moved out, my parents told, because they were actually living with her parents. And in the beginning, the parents really liked Paul because he was so personable. And then something sort of got to them that, especially after Tammy died, they weren't so thrilled about. And for the real reason we moved out, my parents told Paul and I that they wanted him to stay at the house until the wedding. Then they said they wanted him to go after Tammy died because they needed their privacy. Oh, no. They needed their privacy. You think? Maybe they didn't want Paul in the house while they were sobbing their eyes out every freaking day. First, they took away half the wedding money, and then they kicked us out. They knew how much we needed to be together, but they didn't care. What assholes. Wow. What a nice human being. What a nice human being. Just hard to believe. All right. So, all right. Now, Tammy's dead. They to move out. Then this happens. All right. Let's go to Mafferty. This is the girl on this side. Am I on the right side? Where's this Mafferty? Oh, I hate it when I don't know who's who. I think this is actually Mafferty, and this is Kristen. I don't know why it's backwards, but I took the picture from somewhere. My apologies. So anyway, now Mafferty. Now understand that she's already, essentially, she murdered her sister. Paul did not murder her sister. He raped her sister, but he did not murder her. The person who murdered her was Carla. She's the one that gave her the meds and the drugs and the drink, and then she applied things onto her face that she knew were dangerous because she worked in the vet's office and she'd read what the dangers were of it. And she killed her sister. She should have. That's there's no question. She's a murderer right there. All right. So now, having had that happen, the next thing that happens is Kristen Mafferty. So now they're I think they're living together at this point. They got themselves a house. Hold on a second. It's a very complicated thing. All right. So, all right. Early on the morning of June 15th, 1991, Bernardo detoured through Burlington, halfway between Toronto and St. Catharines, which is where I think they were living, St. Catharines, to steal license plates because he's a great guy, and found Leslie Mahaffey. Sorry, did I say Mafferty? Mahaffey. The 14-year-old at Mr. Curfew. She was a bit of a problem. I think it's this one. I really do. And that it's really annoying me. Hold on one second. I'm just going to put in their names because this is bugging me now. I don't want to point to the wrong girl. I think they put these backwards in there. One was, I thought it was in order. Okay. I just want to get a picture so that I know that I'm looking at the right girl when I say this. Hold on a second. Hold on. Sorry about this. Mahaffey. It's a hard name. It's a hard name to spell. I want to be sure I have it correct. Mahaffey, murder. Okay, and what does she look like? Let me look at her. Yeah, that is her. That is Leslie Mahaffey. So Leslie's over here. She was actually the first one murdered. And I thought they had them in order, but apparently the picture I grabbed was not. So this is Leslie Mahaffey. Okay, this is Kristen French. So let's get that straight so I don't screw it up. All right, so now, where was I at? Okay, so Leslie, she missed her curfew. She was kind of a problem kid at the time. She was kind of rebellious and all that. And she missed her curfew, and her parents locked the door and said, you got to learn to come home on time. And that's when Paul Bernardo got a hold of her. He left his car and approached Mahaffey, saying he wanted to break into a neighbor's house. I didn't read that before, but really? That's all? Oh, look, great guy. Go with him. Unfazed. I think she had some issues. She asked if he had any cigarettes. When Bernardo led her to his car, he blindfolded her, forced her into the car, and drove her to Port, I can't pronounce it, Dalhousie, and informed Homolka they had a victim. Now, this is interesting because he blindfolded her, but she'd already seen him. So I'm not sure what the hell the purpose of that was. Maybe so she wouldn't see where he lived. Okay, this is important later because a lot of the claims is the reason he killed them was because he didn't want them, to see him. Wait a minute. The reason he killed them. Okay, I'm trying to think this through again. They'd already seen him. So since she had already seen him, he would have to kill her. Okay. So that would be a truism before she arrived at the house. Now, so she's arrived at the house and apparently, it said Mahaffey later told Bernardo that her blindfold seemed to be slipping, which signaled the possibility she could identify her attackers. Well, she already had seen him, so it didn't make any sense. But anyway, they did videotape this whole thing. Supposedly, when she arrived, Carla, like, oh well, okay, so you got a girl in the basement. That's cool. And she just went back to sleep. And later on, she read some books and just ignore the whole thing. Now, she had to understand that if a girl was brought into the basement and was going to be tortured and videotaped, the chances of her ever leaving the basement were very unlikely. But her sister was already dead. So at this point, we had this opportunity for Carla to say, this is gone. I mean, my sister was an accident, but you can't bring a girl home and rape and murder her in the basement. And oh, by the way, did I mention she'd already brought another girl home? I forgot to mention this. Before this happened, on June 7th, 1991, Homolka invited a 15-year-old girl she had befriended at a pet shop 2 years earlier. She was known as Jane Doe. She was drugged by Homolka. Homolka brought her home, drugged her, and then said, hey, honey, look what I brought you. All right. They ended up letting her go because she was drugged out through the whole entire thing and didn't know what happened. So this is a willing participation. Paul Bernardo did not ask Karla Homolka to bring the girl home. Karla Homolka brought the girl home because she wanted to amuse her, at that time, boyfriend, and also herself. Okay, so this is psychopathy at the top level. This is not a victim because she didn't have to do it. Because usually victims only do what they absolutely have to do. And she went way out of the way. Then when Leslie was brought home, she just ignored the fact she was in the house. She could have picked up a phone, called 911. Get over here. My husband has just kidnapped a girl. She's in the basement. Come and take him away. She could have put her husband away forever, but she didn't do it. And so what happened was Leslie got murdered. All right. Now, the question is always who murdered her. I would say this, because some people think that Bernardo, clearly because he was very violent, he murdered her because she had seen his face and he couldn't let her go. But some people think that Karla murdered her because she was like jealous of her, which is also possible, because like, hey, you've had enough fun with her, get back to me. Maybe. However, I do believe this. I do not believe Karla would kill anybody without Paul's permission ahead of time, because even though I think she was a partner and a psychopath, she's also not stupid. So if Paul wants to have sex with her and she wipes out the victim before Paul is finished with her, Paul's going to take it out on her. So I don't believe for a minute that she killed Leslie. I believe Paul killed Leslie, or they did it together, or she did it at his behest. But I definitely think Paul was involved. And after he killed her, he decided to chop her up into pieces because he decided he's going to get rid of her body in very clever ways. And so basically, he put her in cement blocks. I mean, the description of this, and him in the bathtub in the basement, chopping her up. And Paul was a nasty piece of work, and he thought this was a great idea. And so now this all happens, and you would think at this point, and I'm sure she helped out to some extent with the old body process, but I don't know how much of chopping her Kristen into pieces. But she had to know Kristen was chopped into pieces and put in cement blocks and then thrown. They went together, I think, to throw the body away. Let me see if it says, oh yeah. Bernardo and Homolka decided it was the best way to dispose of the evidence would be to dismember Mahaffey and encase each part of her remains in cement. So Bernardo bought a dozen bags of cement at a hardware store. He kept the receipts, which were damaging at his trial. He wasn't that smart. And then he used a circular saw to dismember her. They made a number of trips to dump the cement blocks in Lake Gibson. Now she had not only, my sister died accidentally when I tried to give her to you, but now we've actually committed an abduction and then killed this girl and went and chopped her into pieces. This is a good time to run away. This is not a point where you say, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this. Now, what happens after this happens? She marries the dude. Yeah, she marries him, and she goes on her honeymoon. And then she bitches that her honeymoon wasn't good because at that point, he had the audacity to say he was a Scarborough rapist. And that really bummed out her mood. And on top of that, he kind of wasn't in the mood for, I guess, vanilla sex, as it would be pointed out in 50 Shades of Grey. Vanilla sex, like romantic. You're on a honeymoon, you're supposed to have romantic sex. But, the dude wasn't into it. So he's like, yeah, I'm not really into you or that kind of sex. And so she was really bummed. She said it was the worst day of her life. Worst day of her life was he wasn't romantic on the honeymoon night, but not the fact that she found out that he was a rapist and that they'd already killed 2 people. That wasn't the worst day of her life. That her sister died and they brutally murdered this young girl and chopped her into pieces. That wasn't her bad life. No, the honeymoon wasn't perfect. Okay, so now the next clue. This happens. Now you think this is time to run away, but no. Now we go to Kristen French. Now they're married. And it's amazing that after they murdered her and chopped her to pieces, they're having this beautiful wedding and they're so happy. It's like, just kind of like, why should we worry about her? Why should my parents worry about my sister? Why should I worry about her? So anyway, now it's Kristen French. So now, time has gone on and Paul's getting bored. And this is a problem. I want to point this out with anybody who thinks they're going to get into some BDSM relationship. People get bored. That kind of person gets bored with what they do, and they always escalate it, just like rapists escalate and serial killers escalate. Sadistic, masochistic stuff escalates because after a while it gets really boring. And I want to point out something else here that was the problem for Karla. Why, if Karla was doing everything he wanted, why did he need these 2 girls? Why did he need her sister? Well, I'll tell you why. Because Karla was acting. Karla was a willing participant. And although that was kind of like it's a kind of a fantasy thing. It's like watching porn and saying, oh, this is a fun fantasy, but it's not the real thing because Karla wasn't really being tortured and screaming. She was playing the game. These two girls, because they weren't knocked out like Tammy. They weren't knocked out like Jane Doe. They were awake for days. These girls were being tortured for days. And they had to go through the same program that Karla did, but they didn't want it. They weren't willing participants. It was not consensual. They were screaming, they were crying, they were saying stop, stop. And then they had to grovel and to say horrible things in order to please Paul Bernardo. So now he had what he really wanted. See, Carla's just a useful tool in a fantasy, but he wanted the real thing. And Carla was a sick woman too. She wanted the thrill of the power and control with Paul, so she was willing to go along with the program. And she also had sex with these girls, and she had her thing going where she had that power and control, both by allowing Paul to have what he wanted, by giving Paul what he wanted, and by getting what she wanted. And also the fact that she was going to be the survivor. These girls weren't. She was going to be the one that still got Paul. These girls didn't. Okay, so now we go to Kristen French. All right, so they kidnapped her off the street. They planned it. Paul said, okay, here's what you need to do. And Carla said, okay, what are we going to do? And they planned it. Carla now was not only home when Paul brought somebody home and it's like, oh, I can't do anything about it. She went with him to kidnap a girl. She was a participant in the planning and the execution of kidnapping. That's psychopathy. I'm sorry. That's not Stockholm syndrome. That's not battered wife syndrome. That's psychopathy. She participated in the actual, she knew she was going to be murdered. Don't forget that. Carla knew they were going to murder Kristen when they started. And they took her home. They kept her for 3 days. There was times when Paul went out to get food because she tried to be sneaky. She tried to be smart and say, hey, go get me a pizza at a place she thought was far enough away. She might convince Carla to let her go, or she might be able to somehow attack Carla and overwhelm her, and then she could get out of there. Didn't work because Carla could have called the police, and supposedly Kristen said to her, please let me go, call the police. Carla didn't do it. And the claim was, Carla said, I was too scared because when Paul came back, he'd hurt me. Yeah, I guess you would probably. But on the other hand, when you kidnapped her, you knew damn well she was going to be murdered. So it didn't matter where Paul was. She was going to be murdered anyway. You just knew that. And you didn't have any problem kidnapping her, did you, Carla? So anyway, she gets murdered. And that's the end of her. Now, to go back to just look at a couple of the things Carla says, which are very, very, just some of the things she said that were just blows you away. Let's see. I like this one. This one's funny. So when they brought home Mahaffey, the lawyer asked her why she'd gotten so mad when she noticed Bernardo had used their fine crystal goblets to give Mahaffey some champagne after he raped her. She said, well, those were my wedding presents. She wasn't mad that Paul was raping Leslie. She wasn't mad that she had to go through all this. She was mad that her nice champagne glasses were being used when they hadn't even used them yet themselves. How dare you? Those are my wedding presents. That's how terrible Carla is absolutely terrible. And, so one of the things once they had the videotapes in hand and they were played in court, one of the things that people saw was that Carla was totally into a lot of stuff that was going on. She was having sex with the victims. She was laughing. She was behind the camera sometimes. She was having a good old time. Okay? She was having a good old time. So she was, in my opinion, one equal partner to that. I don't believe she was a naive girl who hooked up with Christian from 50 Shades of Grey because she just saw the pretty things and thought she could change him. I think she knew exactly what he was from the time she was dating, and she was as sick and as sadistic as he was. And she loved the power and control she got out of all of this. Now, you might ask then, before I get to all your questions, because I know I've been going on a while because it's just so hard to explain all of this. I want to point out, let me point out one more thing about her psychopathy. After she got released after 12 years of prison, she married the brother of her lawyer, this dude. Okay? She had 3 children. Here she is with one of her children. They finally figured out where she lived. She had 3 children with her, taking them from school. There she is. What kind of person, after you've been labeled a serial killer of teenage girls and a killer of your own sister, what kind of person would be willingly have children so that those children grow up knowing their mother's a serial killer. What kind of person is that? I'm going to tell you, a psychopath. What kind of person is her lawyer's brother? I'm going to say she found another one, because what kind of man would marry a psychopathic serial killer and raise his children as her mother, with her as a mother? There's some sick people here, some really sick people here. And I can't give her any benefit of, oh, I know I was a battered woman. Okay, let's talk about the battered problem, because this is a whole nother issue. All right. So after they catch him for being, finally the DNA comes back, they got him for the Scarborough case. They bring her in, and she has, what happens at this point is that she's been beaten. All right, let me show you a picture of her face. Where's her face? Where's her face? Okay, here she is. She has been beaten. She went to the hospital. She has been beaten by Paul Bernardo. Now, he brutally beat her. Okay? And this really helped her case out, because she's like, see, I was a victim. So now she expands on this. She says that basically since the time they got together, he beat her. A few people will say she saw some bruises. They saw some bruises on her and stuff. But hey, she was participating in sadistic, masochistic stuff. She was being tied up and all this kind of crap. So you're going to get bruises on you occasionally from things that are done to you, you know. So those bruises aren't necessary from being beaten. Those can just be from your sexual activities with this whole, you know, master-slave thing going on. But she was beaten. She was beaten at this point. My question is, why was she beaten at this exact point? And that's when she turned on Paul Bernardo. That's when she left him. She filed for divorce, and she was willing to turn him over to the police. She got herself a lawyer and everything, but then she ratted him out, and she called him a bastard. Go after him, get that bastard for everything. And she also got a new lover. Okay, so why at that point in time? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to read this to you, and then I'm going to look at all your comments, because I've been going on quite a while. Such a convoluted mess, but I just want you to understand Karla Homolka in a way maybe you haven't seen before. But here we go. I want to read you this. I'm only going to read a part of it, because I'm going to let you read the rest of it if you want to. I'll put a link below. I wrote this quite a while back. Actually, in 2012, this was on 50 Shades of Grey, but I want to point out to you what I think happened to what she finally got in her brain, what she finally realized. This is called Criminal Profiling Topic of the Day, my anti-fan fiction of 50 Shades of Grey, and it's called When Christian Killed Anna. All right. When Christian killed Anna, Christian gazed down at me from above, my hands tied behind my head to the bed rail with that gray tie of his, my ankles bound with rope to the side rails at the foot. His expression is unreadable, but as my eyes shift from his face to his chest and then to those jeans of his hanging deliciously off his hips, my inner goddess jumped for joy. Heat rushes down there, and I squirm desperately as I wait for Christian to touch me. Oh, he's so hot. He runs his hands through that slightly tousled hair of his. I'm bored with you, Anna, he says quietly. I am stunned. How can he be bored with me? I have done everything he wanted, minus a few items I put a line through on the contract. But we've only been together for a couple of months, sir. I had thought I was different than the train of other women he had been through. I thought I was special. Christian actually laughs. Special? Why would you think? What would you think I find so special about you? He admonishes me. You are a mildly attractive, run-of-the-mill college girl with nothing particularly alluring or interesting about you. Tears flood my eyes. But sir, you said I was special, different, that you had never had vanilla sex or slept the night with anyone but me. And you believe me, you little fool? He smirks. Why don't you bite your lower lip again? You really think that drives me mad for you, don't you? It doesn't do anything but make me hate you. And he reaches out with both hands, and I'll skip that part, and I yelp with pain. Christian looks at me with disdain. You don't think I've told each one of my girls how adorable they are? Don't you realize I told every one the same stupid things that I told you? You were all so easy to dupe. He sighs. All of you who think you are going to be the one, you are going to change me. From what? From myself? I like myself just the way I am. He leans in and snickers. Do you know, my dear Anastasia, that I was never abused as a child? Not once, but oh, how easy it was to make you feel sorry for me. Christian's face appears inches away from mine, behind my wall of tears. You know all those things that weren't in the contract? Well, today you get to do them all. And I'm not going to read the rest of it because it's too crude to be on YouTube. Today you're going to do them all. Now, this is where I think Karla found herself. At the point where these women had been murdered, at the point where he was being discovered as the Scarborough rapist, time was running out. She knew what she was to him. She was a tool to him because he's a psychopath. She realized that. And at that point, when he could no longer go out and commit crimes, the only crime he could commit would be on her. And she was there and available, and he was going to go down anyway. I think she said something to him. I think she tried to leave. I think she tried to, whatever she said to him, and he beat the crap out of her. And luckily for her, she got out of there. You know, she got out of there and didn't get murdered. But I think she knew her time was up with him because she did realize he didn't love her. He didn't care about her. And they had been partners in crime, and he was going down. And so what did he have to lose? And why wouldn't he, if he could, if she'd given him another chance, if there was another moment, why wouldn't he do everything to her that he never got to do even to the other girls? Why not? Why not kill her? Why not? How she got out of there, I'm not sure. But my belief is when she did get out of there, that's why she ratted him out, because she knew it was already over and she was just trying to save her own butt. So it wasn't anything about her doing anything good. It wasn't anything about that, oh, you know, finally I've escaped my abuser. No, she knew she would, she better get out of there now, because whatever happened then, it was over between the two of them. And then she was willing to rat him out because that was her best game plan at that point. Does that make her a victimized woman, or does it make her a smart psychopath? I'm going to go with smart psychopath. I'm going to go to some of your comments now, because I've been here so long talking about all these different things. Okay. Wow. Let me go back up here. I have to go way back up now. Professor Brown is in. Pat, your voice is the voice of experience. Well, you know, I've seen a lot, understood a lot. And one of the things I always want to point out is that a lot of people see this from outside of understanding criminal behavior, understanding psychopathy. So they see it from a very different point of view. I don't. I see it from what I've seen. She killed animals and played with their corpses. I don't know how accurate that is, so I can't go on about totally that. Really? Benny says it's not okay. Yeah, it's sick, just like animal sex, which is legal in Denmark. Wow. You know, we're excusing a lot of stuff these days, which is horrifying to me. That understandably, sex is for procreation in some senses. Then sex is a way to express love for each other, and sex is also enjoyable between two people who want to make each other happy. When you start going beyond that to the point where somebody's getting tortured, somebody's being humiliated, there's something sick about that. There is nothing normal about somebody wanting to call his woman a slut, to have her say, I'm a slut. Yeah, I'm your slut. That's not normal. That's sick. I'm sorry. I have no place for that. And a lot of pornography does that, because that's the power thing, where the powerful person humiliates and dominates the other person. But sometimes this is where I think Karla comes in. I think that she, you know, you can play the part of the masochist. You can play the part of the slave, but you're still getting some sick kick out of it, because you're playing that part. You're my king. You're my king. You're my master, and you're a special slave. Well, you know, that's what Karla found out eventually. She ain't so special. I'm going to have to look this one up, Joe. I know you mentioned before about Hindley and Brady. I'm going to have to do a whole show on that, the Moors murders. Yeah, absolutely. Heidi, why would she have to rat him out when there was a video? Maybe I'm forgetting the timeline, but really, why was she given the deal? Okay. What happened was the videos were hidden. She didn't know where they were hidden. I forgot to mention that. She did not know. So she was not, at the time she got the deal, the time the Crown made that deal, nobody had seen her behavior on those videos. She just gave her side of the story on those videos. Then what happened is the defense, Bernardo's defense, is like, yeah, they're going to take you down with her because it's all her word, and they're presenting her as the abused woman, and people are going to go for that. So what happened was they decided. Paul said, okay, so Paul said, okay, fine. And he said, here, go. They'd already searched the house for like 2 months, ripped the shreds out of it, but they missed this. He said, okay, there's these places. You go in there in the ceiling. There's a light fixture. Go in there to the light fixture, take the light fixture out, and you'll find the tapes up there. And they did that. Then they hid the tapes. The defense hid the tapes with the concept that during the trial, they're going to whip the tapes out and like shock everybody with Carla's behavior, which I think is just is I don't even understand how that's legal, because they had evidence in a crime and didn't turn it over to the police or in discovery to the prosecution. I don't get that. So I'm not going to get into all of that. But so eventually, in the beginning, they didn't know about these tapes. When the tapes were there, then they were like, oh, shoot, because now the tapes made her look really bad. And the whole thing is so bizarre to me because I don't understand why both of them just can't get a life sentence. There were 3 girls, Tammy and Leslie and Kristen. 3 girls were all murdered in the commission of a crime. I just say it's murder 1 on both of them. Just not even waste your time with the rest of it. I don't understand it. Maybe it's kind of law in Canada. I'm not saying U.S. is any better because sometimes we don't seem to do these things well either. But I just don't understand why they couldn't have taken both of them down. I just don't. It's bizarre to me. But yeah, so those came up later, essentially. Let's see. Christine says American and Canadian legal systems both based on British common law. The U.S. criminal law varies from state to state. Canada is one federal criminal law and criminal code across the country. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Oh, this is a point. And I think for some reason, Dr. Grande, I don't know, he couldn't pronounce Carla's name. He kept saying Homolka instead of Homolka. And he said that she led him to them to the tapes, and that was not true. She didn't ever lead them to the tapes. The tapes were found, that were led to by Paul Bernardo and his defense team. And so, yeah. Let's see. Okay. I think I knew there had to be a reason related to when they found him. I remember Paul threatened Carla with him as evidence against her. Oh yeah. Well, this is true. You make tapes, you can never rat me out because you're in the tapes too. Hey, it's brilliant actually for that reason. Yeah. I mean, she was going to go down with him as she ratted him out. And the only reason she ended up ratting him out was because they'd already caught him. She thought she was done anyway. And then she had this great defense. Oh, look, see how beat up I was? That was really useful for her. No, she was a straight up psychopath. I'm good with that. I'm totally good with that. Let's see what else you have to say. Paul was always upset that Carla was not a virgin. So Carla gave him her sister. Oh yeah. What a bummer. She's not a virgin. Yeah. I mean, it's one more step. Nothing is ever satisfying to a sadist. They want one more step. So I believe he would have been a serial killer without Carla's help. I think he would have gone on from raping to murdering. I think that would have gone there eventually, and maybe more dungeon stuff, because he did go from the outside crimes into dungeon stuff in his own basement. If Carla hadn't been there, she just wouldn't have helped. That's all. That would be the difference. He used her because she was good for bringing a girl home and to helping him out and all that stuff, and they had fun together. Lila said, I did not know after all my research that Carla performed sex acts on her sister. This is one sick mammal. Yeah. Sex on her sister and on the other girls as well, but on her sister. You can't get worse than that. I mean, I'm sorry, you're not married, you're not living in his home, you're under the protection of your parents at that point. There is zero excuse for why you couldn't have said, there's no way I'm doing this crap, because she wasn't under his control. They hadn't killed anybody. She hadn't helped rape anybody at that point. There was nothing he had over her, okay, at that point. She herself decided to do this horrendous act, even in her parents' home. She's a sick twit. That's all there is to it. She's a sick twit. No, she didn't have it in the home already. No, it's even worse than that. She went and researched. She worked with a vet, and she knew that's what they use with animals. She researched what she should use with her sister. That she knew that when she drugged her drink, that would only make her sleepy and wasn't quite enough to get through rape of many sorts. So the idea was to have her completely passed out. And so that's where that came in, that she was going to put that over her face so she'd be completely knocked out during the sex acts. Now, later, of course, the advantage was once they had the girls in the basement, they didn't have to knock anybody out. And that was Paul's preference, because you want the girl to beg. You want the girl to cry. You want the girl to scream. You want to hear all that. When they're knocked out, they're not as much fun, Joe says, listening to this makes me think that if Karla is truly into BDSM, I'd happily beat the shit. Joe. Okay. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And again, I will say this. I don't want to hear any BDSM comments down below, how wonderful it all is and how it's a great community. No, y'all got problems. But I will say this. If it's consensual between two idiots, between two people who need to get some psychiatric help, if it's consensual, that's your problem. That's your problem in your own bedroom. You want to torture each other, or one tortures the other. You're stupid enough to go through that and think that's cool. Be my guest. But once you take it out of your bedroom into somebody else's bedroom, or you bring somebody into your bedroom non-consensually, that's not okay. That's sexual assault. Let's see. Heidi says, some women may seem to feel as though they're safe in the presence of another woman. That's true, but that is not always the case if that woman is a psycho, I guess. Yeah, sometimes serial killer couples, the man will use the woman like for hitchhikers, driving along, and she goes, she's hitchhiking. You're like, hey, you need a ride? And the girl gets in the vehicle because there's a female in there. And they think, therefore, the guy's not a serial killer or a rapist. And lo and behold, they're surprised. Now, sometimes what happens in some of these situations is that the woman does cooperate. And this is a little different than this sick thing. The woman is an abused wife. She has been brutalized. And what happens is she's been brutalized so much that if the guy says, if I bring home another girl and put her in the basement, I won't touch you again. And she's like, okay, that's cool. Okay. So she helps get the girl in the basement. And then she is free of his torturing her. Is she still an evil human being? In my opinion, yes. You just go to the police and get the hell out of there. If it costs you your life, too damn bad. I'm sorry. But, you're the idiot who got hooked up with a creep. And if it costs you your life to save somebody else's life, you should be doing it. But some of these women, yeah, they'll let the guy have the girl in the basement or in the box or whatever they're putting her in. So they don't have to be sexually assaulted any longer themselves. They get out of the bedroom problem. So the sadism goes elsewhere, and they just cook for the guy, and then they have their fake life, But, okay, Joe says, she's clearly as guilty as a lover boy. I'm astonished anyone has suggested otherwise. She's completely on par with Myra Hindley. I think it's because he's dominant and she's not dominant. And so the concept is, and this is clearly Dr. Grande's concept, that he leveraged power over her to the point where she lost some of her ability to make her own free choices. I don't agree with him at all. I do not agree. I think there are certain people like that, but I do not see it in her situation. He never, one thing he never did, which is common for battered women and women who are what they do is a guy will keep her from seeing any of her friends. He will keep her from her family. He won't let her go to work. He'll keep her trapped in the home, away from all other human beings who can see what he's doing to her. She was hanging out with the girlfriends. She was going on trips. She was still working. She was still seeing her family. So that's all bull. Just absolutely bull. But, you ask why, how could this be acceptable? Well, I saw her family showing up at the trial. I don't know what's happened since, but here's her mom, her dad, and her sister coming to the trial, supposedly supporting her. And I don't know whether since then they've told her to go jump, but I'm sorry. If that were my daughter, she'd be an ex-daughter. ex-daughter. There's no way I'd have anything. She killed my other daughter. And on top of that, she helped kill other people. I'm sorry. I'm done. I don't understand how anybody can. But again, maybe they're falling for the same thing. Oh, she was all under Paul's spell. He was the magician. She's just, the stupid rabbit in a hat, we can excuse everything she does. No, you're an adult. You don't get to excuse everything you do because you want what you want. And that's the problem. She wanted what she wanted. She wanted her man. She wanted this fancy, the fancy wedding. She wanted to be more alike than her sister. So she was willing to, she was a little jealous of her sister and getting Paul's attention toward her sister. She didn't stop to say, the dude's a creep. No, she wanted to win. She loved power and control. She wanted to win. She was going to win with him. She was going to win over everybody. She had just as much psychopathic issues as this guy did. And I don't know how she scored low on a psychopathy test. So somebody, whoever gave it to her, is an idiot, And some of the psychiatrists that were in on this case, if you watch these documentaries, you just want to punch all of them in the face and think, how do you even practice psychiatry? Because you're idiots, absolute idiots. It's horrifying. Let's see. Let's see. Karla's recognition, instinct for self-preservation. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. I think at a certain point she knew she was going to go down. She was going to be the next victim, and she wasn't planning to be that. So she walked. Let's see. Hello, I'm late. Well, I guess Annie, you're going to have to go back and start at the beginning. You'll have to start all over again. So, but it's a fascinating case because it's rare that we have serial killer couples. Usually it's male and male. And what you have in the male-male couples is you have the leader and you have the follower, the guy who's, the bigger dude in the whole thing. It doesn't say that the follower should be exonerated. I'm sorry, if you want to hook up with the guy you think is your big brother, and you want to go kill women and watch him and help him torture them, I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of sympathy for you. Just because you're not the, you're not the alpha guy, you're not the alpha dog. I should feel sorry for you because you're not the alpha dog. Oh, but especially with women, he was, able to. He's a male, so he's able to make her do these things. I'm sorry, she had too many ways out. Too many other choices in her life. She did not come. She came from an intact family. She could go to college, and she did. She could get work, and she did. She was liked by her family, at least because they're stupid and didn't realize she was psycho earlier on. She had friends. Oh, and by the way, supposedly he was like really into American Psycho, but she was the one that went to the veterinary place and said, "Hey, American Psycho is a great book. Look at this." So she was totally into this. She was a sick twit. I mean, she was sick, and all of her thinking was sick. And so what happened was sometimes you wonder, would they have been a serial killer couple? Would Karla have become a serial killer if she hadn't met Paul? I'm going to say this, probably not. Probably not. If she had met some other guy, she might have been into some other psychopathic behaviors, some other psychopathic way of life. Like she's now remarried and has 3 kids. I'm sure those kids are under her control. I don't know about her stupid husband. Maybe he's an idiot too. Maybe she's controlling him. Maybe she's now the dominant person in everything. And she hasn't killed the 3 children, and she's with a new husband. She hasn't killed him. She hasn't killed anybody else. So yes, she may not have been a serial killer had she been in a different situation. I think Paul would have been he was already a serial rapist. So he was already a serial rapist / serial killer without her help. So he was truly that. She, on the other hand, may have taken a different road. She would have still been a psychopath, but yeah, maybe that thrill wouldn't have been offered to her. You see, she got offered a thrill and she took it. She took it because she wanted that thrill. And if you look at all of our lives, one could say, well, I never climbed a mountain. But let's say somebody someday offered you this opportunity to join this mountain climbing expedition and said you give you training, and suddenly one day you're climbing a mountain and you're up there on the top of, whatever, Everest or something, going, oh my God, I never thought I could do this. This is an incredible thrill. Well, would you have climbed that mountain if you hadn't had the opportunity? Well, maybe not. But still, if an opportunity presents itself, you either take it or you don't, depending on who you are. Now, I don't care how many people offer me the opportunity to climb a mountain. I ain't going up. I'm not doing it. And I'm not jumping out of an airplane because I'm a chicken crap when it comes to heights. I don't like it. I don't care how much money you offer me. I don't care what opportunities, how cool it is. I'm not doing it. But you could offer me other opportunities that I might say, oh, I never had that opportunity, but I take it. So Karla may not have had that opportunity with somebody else and may have gone through life never killing anybody, but she may have been part of the BDSM community. She might have been, she could have done all kinds of she could have committed fraud. She could have, who knows what other horrible things she would have done. She might not have been a serial killer. So yeah, it was a bad marriage in a sense that she hooked up with a guy who was a serial killer. He offered her an opportunity and she took it of her own free will. Let's see. Carrie says, do you think Karla's appearance contributed to absurd psychiatric opinions regarding battered spouse syndrome? Oh, she was really good, by the way. If you look at these documentaries, first of all, she presented herself. First of all, the face with being beaten up really helped a great deal. But she also played the little girl all the time. Oh, I just, and he did this to me and this. But what's so funny is as she's talking the little girl voice, she shows zero empathy across the board. Zero empathy. How a psychiatrist doesn't see the zero empathy part. And what's funny is when they're really good, the fifth, what was that? Sorry. What's the name of it again? Let me roll up here and find it so I can say it properly. Oh yeah, the Fifth Estate. Fifth Estate. She is so fabulous in this. And she nails some of these psychiatrists saying, didn't you see that? Well, yeah, she didn't have any empathy. Okay. Isn't that and it's a hallmark of psychopathy. Zero empathy is a hallmark of psychopathy. So she gets them tripped up. And so Fifth Estate is really good for watching her trip up all the psychiatrists. It's just grand. But yeah, I don't know what their problem was. I don't know if they're hired by somebody or they just have weird ideas about no woman could have her own agency, or any woman can be easily dominated, or if a woman is hit once, therefore she's a battered woman. I don't know what they're going on about. That she doesn't have any part to play in the choices she made. Yeah, not so. Joe says, is it possible that Karla would have gravitated toward another psychopath? Either consciously or subconsciously. She seems like the type of psychopath who wants someone else to do the heavy lifting. Yeah. Yes, I think that's possible. Now, generally speaking, a lot of times psychopaths don't get along because they butt heads all the time and they can't stand each other because they don't care about each other. And they're like, what's this person's problem? They can't manipulate as well. But there's these situations where two people who have psychopathy can indeed actually work together in certain forms. Now you see that a lot in the mafia and cartels, because you got a lot of psychopaths working together. But you have an alpha psychopath, and then you have the lesser psychopaths, and the alpha psychopath manipulates the lesser psychopaths, but the lesser psychopaths are getting what they want out of the alpha. So that's why it's always interesting to watch when you're talking about crime cartels, because it's hard to understand how this dude on top is a major psychopath, like Pablo Escobar down in Colombia. How did he do all the things he did and people still worked for him? Because there's massive violence going on. People are getting murdered if you don't toe the line, you get murdered. It's because the lesser psychopaths still get from their association tremendous amount of something. Let's say you're living in Colombia and you're very poor, but by hooking up with Pablo Escobar, you get to sell drugs for him. You make a lot of money. You get all the ladies. As long as you don't cross him, you're good. But sometimes some of the psychopaths, because they're arrogant and they're psychopaths, do end up crossing the alpha psychopath, and then the alpha psychopath kills them. So this is the problem we have with Karla, I think, and Paul. I think she got to the point when he beat the crap out of her. She had crossed him in some way. I don't know what happened, and she's not going to tell us. She did something that caused him to go off. Now, people are going to say, oh, you're going to blame the woman. No, I'm blaming lesser psychopath and bigger psychopath. Somehow, she either stood up to bigger psychopath or bigger psychopath. Maybe he just thought she said something he didn't like. It didn't matter. They are unequal in a sense, the alpha psychopath and the lesser psychopath. But they're both psychopathic in that they're getting something out of the relationship that is purely selfish, and they could give a crap about the other person. I don't think she ever loved him, and I don't think he ever loved her. They're too psychopathic to do that. But by playing the game, they both got what they wanted for a period of time. And then, when one crosses, has anybody seen Reservoir Dogs? Great show. Reservoir Dogs is a great movie where I was asked to do, they had a 10th anniversary, I believe it was, 10th anniversary special thing. It's really cool. Reservoir Dogs, it came in a cool little like gas can thing, really neat looking. And then you open up and the DVD was in there. And they asked me to profile the different characters, Mr. Black, Mr. White, well, the different ones in there. And they said, which ones are psychopaths? I said, well, pretty much all of them. Maybe I'll let the police officer off, but all the rest of them, 100% psychopaths. And they're like, really? All of them? I'm like, absolutely all of them. But you had your alpha psychopath, and then you had, and they showed emotions, which is what confused people. Like, this guy really liked this guy. Like I can't remember the whole story now because it's been a long time, but the main guy liked the police officer. And when he found out the guy was a cop, he was really, really upset about it because he liked him as well as he would like his dog. Like a dog is your dog until the dog pees on your rug and then you just kill it, that kind of psychopathy. Psychopaths can like people for what the pleasure they bring them, the attention they get from them. But once that line is crossed where that person isn't under their control anymore or says something they don't like, then they're off them because they're psychopaths. So I don't think people understand that you can have more than one psychopath playing in the same game. So I think Karla, she hadn't found this psychopath. She might have found some other psychopath, or she would have just found people she could manipulate and use and would do that. Oh, you saw that. I love Reservoir Dogs. I never had any doubt that most of them are psychopaths, but can't deny many of them had definite anti-hero appeal. It's a fabulous film. I mean, hey, it's sick. It's sick. And the scene with the guy being tortured while they play the music, that song, you never see that song again. What was that? I'm trying to think of the song in my head. Somebody tell me the song, Joe. Okay, I'm gonna have to look up. Oh, it's a horrific scene in that because you're seeing two things that are disparate. See if you remember the song. Hold on a second. I'm having a problem with my okay, here we go. Reservoirs. All I gotta do is put in Reservoir Dogs song. Okay, the song is Stuck in the Middle with You. I think it's stuck in, I haven't found it yet, but I think it's Stuck in the Middle with You. What is that iconic song? What? No. Stuck in the Middle with You. Yeah. So they're playing Stuck in the Middle with You while they're torturing this guy. And the guy's going, stuck in the middle with you. And he's the killer. He's going to torture him. And it's so psychopathic that the psychopath is just enjoying this song and he's killing this guy at the same time. Yeah. Stuck in the Middle. That was one of the creepiest, most horrifying and accurate scenes. I'm not fond of violent films. I'm not fond of I hate slasher films, but there's some specifically excellent films that show psychopathy in such a grand way, and Reservoir Dogs is definitely one of them. Oh, I have the special anniversary edition with your commentary. Oh, cool, Annie. I mean, it's really it was a really cool commentary to do, and but and that's funny because I hadn't seen, I guess I hadn't seen that movie before they asked me to do it, and I was like, dang, this thing is good, I'm like, I was super impressed. What? Avoid the Louise Redknapp cover version. I don't know anything about that, but it's great in the movie. And one day I might do something on all the best psychopath movies there are, because it's rare that they get it right. That you get the true feeling of how psychopaths behave, and Reservoir Dogs is one of them. And I think that's why if more people had seen Reservoir Dogs, they might understand these two dogs. You know, they might get it. I want to hear that version of the DVD. I'd love to hear a commentary. I don't know if it's still available on Amazon. Let me see. Because you're in the UK, but let me see if it's just available on Amazon. I think it's called Reservoir Dogs 10th edition. I think that's the name of it. Let's see, Reservoir Dogs 10th. Oh, 15th. Oh, it's a 15th anniversary edition. Okay. 15th anniversary edition. I think that's it. Let me see if I'm on it. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, okay. It does exist. Hey, it's only $8 in the US. I don't know what it's there, but Reservoir Dogs 15, and this is the limited edition as the gas can. It's so cool. And it says, let's see what it says here. See what it says about the Trusting. Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time, but yeah, it's a great movie, and I hope my commentary is good too. But that's it for this. I know it's a little. It was really hard to figure out how to present this because I wasn't trying to present the case as much as I was trying to present Carla and trying to help people understand all the weirdness that goes on with the sadistic and masochistic things. I mean, people. I said there's two reasons for being masochists. One is that you don't have a choice, and that's the only way you think you can get love is you let somebody abuse you. So you're not really masochistic. That's the thing. You're not really masochistic because you don't really like what's being done, but you're allowing it to be done because you want the benefits of what the sadist is offering you. Or the masochistic part is I'm allowing somebody to do things to me and getting the thrill out of how they're doing it. I'm living vicariously through the fact that they're able to do this and I'm able to be part of it. It's very, very confusing. It's hard to understand. And unfortunately, if you do understand it, maybe you need help. It's not a healthy thing. It's not a healthy thing. Well, thank you, Carrie. I'll have to look back and see how masterful it was. You know me. I never have anything written down. So I just like to help people understand things that other people aren't telling them. And other people aren't sharing with them, especially when it comes down to stuff that people get creeped out by. And then they can't understand it because no one will tell them the straight up story. So, yeah, and I like to do that. I wonder if Carla will watch this. I wonder if Carla will contact me. Thank you, Joe. I wonder if she'll contact me. Every once in a while, I get some psychopath that does contact me. I have a serial killer who contacts me. And what'll be funny is, this is what's usually funny, is that somebody like Paul Bernardo will contact me and say, you really understand me, Pat. I'm like, gee, thanks. Okay, so excited. Ellison says, thank you for this. Very interesting. I finally worked out that the sister's murder was premeditated. No, it's not premeditated. No, I would say not. Her murder was not premeditated. Her murder was accidental, but it's because they did the same thing to Jane Doe. So Carla did the same thing to both of the women. The girls. She was trying to control her to make her compliant by being out of it, so that Paul could do anything he wanted to her and have his way, have his thrill. She wasn't actually intending to kill her sister. So the murder wasn't premeditated. The rape was premeditated. Okay, the sexual assault was premeditated. The murder was accidental. That's still manslaughter. And Jane Doe. That was a sexual assault. That was a premeditated sexual assault again, but she didn't get killed during that. The two other girls, Kristen and Leslie, those are premeditated homicides. I don't believe for a minute they were brought back to the house and they were ever going to release those girls. Are you kidding me? You cannot kidnap people off the street, bring them to your home, torture them for days, and then release them back to the public. I'm trying to think of the last time that happened. Could it happen? Yeah, but that's not going to happen. Especially when you have two people involved. Even if she didn't see the people, they might not have seen them for some period of time because they did have a blindfold to some extent, but kept slipping. And besides which, like Kristen already see, which one already? Leslie had already seen him before. Both of them. Leslie. Okay, wait a minute. Let me go back here just 1 second. This is important. So we got the two girls. Okay, wait a minute. Okay. So supposedly they put blindfolds on them, and then they kept slipping, so they'd end up doing, killing them anyway if they saw them. Okay. Leslie saw. So what happened was Paul Bernardo pulls up, gets out of his car, talks to her. He's not wearing a mask. She's not wearing a mask. She sees him in full face. Then he gets her in the car. Then he puts a mask on her. So she's dead. She's dead right there. Kristen, they pull up to her in front of, I think, her church or her school. They pull up, and Karla says, "Hey, excuse me, I can't find something. I can't figure out where this place is." She gets out and shows her a map. They're talking. She sees Karla's face, and then she's tossed into the car and taken away. So she's dead too. So that was premeditated, and this is premeditated. There's no way in God's earth those weren't premeditated homicides. So, but no, I don't believe Karla was. I think that was just screwed up. Let's see. Wouldn't that be great? I'll go up. Karla watches it. Yeah. Perhaps Karla cannot avoid watching Martin. Hi, Karla. Nice to see you. Yes, I do think you exhibit traits of a psychopath, and I feel very sorry for your children. I don't know what's wrong with the husband of yours. Hope he left you, but now he's left 3 children with you. That doesn't work out well. All right. Sedation with halothane was planned. Yes. Yeah, that was that whole, yes, everything was planned as to what they did to her. They just didn't think it was going to kill her. That's the only difference. As long as she's not on the live stream. Yeah. As far as I know, you have to join Patreon to be on my live streams. So no, she won't just pop up. Although we've seen that. That's one of the reasons I stopped doing open live streams, because we would get lawyers popping up to address the case I was talking about and to take over the chat room and tell everybody I was an idiot. We get people who believe the opposite of me. They just come in. They don't care what I say. They're not trying to learn anything about profiling. They're just coming in to say, no, she's wrong. And then you get psychopaths rolling through as well. So yeah, that's why I stopped having open ones. So we have instead a wonderfully nice group of people who are intelligent and want to discuss things, and we don't have that problem. So not saying that somebody couldn't sneak in and set me up, but yeah. So at last I get it. Well, that's good. But there's so much information in this case. It's insane amount of information to try to, you can either talk about the case and try to do a very just basic what this case means, or you can do a very short, this is the psychology like Dr. Grande did. I try to mix the two together to bring in enough information at the same time as I'm trying to help you understand the whole psychopathy issue here. But I wanted to bring you something different as far as understanding this whole sadistic, masochistic thing, the old, master and slave routine. And because people aren't really familiar with that. And yeah, and it's out there in the world more than we think it is. And it's unfortunate. It really is. It's terribly unfortunate. So anyway, I'm glad you all came today. It was a very unpleasant topic. I admit, it's a tough one to do because it's just gruesome. And I just, but as I end this program, I just want to say again, I think the fact that they played those videotapes for the jury was just as sadistic as the people are involved in the tapes. I think it's sick. I can't imagine how that was allowed. It's just, and I can't imagine that lay people could handle what they're looking at and understand things. I mean, they did convict Paul Bernardo. So what happened was, the question was, what did Paul Bernardo actually kill the 2 girls, or did Karla kill the 2 girls? Right? Who was responsible for their deaths? And the problem is, they wanted to convict Paul Bernardo of actually killing the 2 girls. And I have a problem. I actually don't necessarily think I agree with the verdict. The verdict was guilty on every single juror said he was guilty, got convicted of murder. But in reality, there wasn't actually proof that he himself killed them any more than there was proof that Karla killed them. If you're going to say who killed them, I can't say I know. From the evidence, I don't know if Karla did it or he did it or they did it together. All I can say is, in a world that isn't idiotic, since both of them were involved in the abduction, rape, and torture of these 2 girls, that would be death that occurred during the commission of a crime. I say both of them are guilty of murder. I don't have a problem with both of them being guilty of murder, but I think it's kind of funny that the jury did find just him guilty, and I'm like, who actually killed him? I don't know. There's no way I can prove it. I personally think he's more likely to have done it, or she did it at his behest, or they did it together. But I personally think he probably did it himself. But actually, there's no evidence. There's not perfect evidence that he did it. So I'm not sure the jury was. I mean, I like the verdict, but I don't know that I would agree that that is the correct verdict. So it's kind of craziness, but that's yeah. Our laws need to change. They're kind of like really demented. Thank you, Christine. Very challenging to present this case awesomely. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, this is cool. Lila had sent this to me earlier. Since her release, lawyers have warned that it isn't right to post pictures of Karla's whereabouts, and anyone who does that may be exposing themselves to being sued. Yeah, isn't that funny? I said, oh, poor Karla. That's a shame. But, you know, the hatred up in Canada is so strong against Karla. I mean, that is, I mean, if you're from the U.S., you have no idea what's going up there in Canada when it comes to the Karla Homolka. But people are really enraged about the fact that she only got 12 years and got to walk away. She sells diapers now or something. She even got to work at a kid's school with other children. It's like, now she's not, but apparently that's ended. But I mean, it's appalling. It's appalling. But, you know, the fact that she would marry and have 3 kids makes me want to throw up. And I really feel sorry for those children. I think it's, I think it's so sad for them, because even if she's able to convince them that she is a really good person, because she might be, you know, manipulating them all their lives, but, you know, somewhere along the way, they're going to grow up and find out that everybody hates their mother and that her mother is a serial killer. So, you know, Pat, I'm amazed at the level of research you're able to do before your shows. You've got such a deep understanding of all the aspects, and it's only a few days since you started the research. Well, I try to like get the most important things I can in, and yet I'm not doing the level of research if I were doing an investigation or I was going to write a book or something. But I think I always try to find enough information to help you understand things, and you know, so that's what I always hope to do. So thank you all. Enjoy your day, not being anywhere near Karla Homolka. If you don't know her name, she could be your best friend right now. Let's see what Lisa has to say. I saw an interview with him and the police in prison years later, and the level of narcissism or lack of self-awareness was insane. Yeah, actually, I didn't get to go into all of Bernardo, but the stuff he says is just ludicrous. I mean, he's just like, oh, I didn't do anything with it. It's like, that guy, that's a whole nother story of psychopathy. Oh, I see. Yeah, Lila's correct. Some people need to be sterilized permanently. You betcha. They sure do. And it's unbelievable. Sometimes our system of justice isn't all that just. And, you know, it's just pretty scary stuff. So, yeah, but these were definitely a serial killer couple. I say they is a match made in hell, you know, and she's not the innocent victim or even the battered wife or the Stockholm syndrome. She made her choices, and her choices should have put her in prison for the rest of her life, but somebody screwed up. So anyway, thank you for being here. Again, subscribe to the channel, help out, support the channel. That'll be grand, and I'll see you soon.